All right, I'm going to call to order the Borough Council regular meeting for September 21st, 2022. We'll start with a roll call.
President Ferguson.
Here.
Vice President Gerard.
Here.
Councilmember Fagan.
Here.
Councilmember Presser. Here. Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Mayor Gerard.
Here.
Borough Manager Snyder. Here. Borough Solicitor Harper.
Here.
All right, everyone stand and do our pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, council teams, do our invocation.
Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, we thank you and praise you for blessing us with another day in your wonderful creation and for your many blessings upon each one of us and on our wonderful community. We are grateful for this opportunity to serve and represent our residents, and we ask that you guide us now and give us your wisdom as we work on their behalf. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
All right, before we get into the agenda, I just want to make the announcement that we did have an executive session prior to our regular council meeting to talk about personnel safety issues. All right, let's start with the agenda. Item number 1, can I get our approval of the meeting agenda? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for September 21st, 2022 regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion, Councilor Stevens, a second from Councilwoman Crosser. Gonna get that right one of these days. Any questions on the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right, item 2, approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 17, 2022's workshop regular meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Second. I got a motion from Councilor Gerard, a second from Councilor Fagan. Any questions or amendments or changes? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right, item number 3, public input. If anyone has some input, please rise, state your name, and address the reason for addressing council. You can actually use the podium with the microphone over there if you'd like. Yes. Oh, it'd be better.
We're live streaming this,
Yeah, I know.
so you need to turn the mic on and use it, okay?
You can talk
All
louder.
right, I'm here.
And you're
All right.
really close to the
Yeah.
camera back there.
So I wanted to email a couple people ahead of,
Oh, and I'm sorry. Can you state your name and
Oh,
address
sorry.
reason for addressing council?
So I want to ask about a few things. I don't need answers tonight, but so I know budget time is coming up, and I want to make the request to Borough Council to see if they would entertain including in the bid package for the next year's paving roads, which may or may not include East School Street, the option to pave the alleyway. Similar to what they have done in the past for both the sewer and the curbs that you did on West School. Because, right now, the alleyway on my side is not in terrible shape, but unless, there's some kind of effort to do something, it's just gonna continue to deteriorate and turn into just stone. So, looking at, based on this year's bids, it's like 850 square yards, it'd be like $10,000, which there's 7 properties that alleyway services. I think that's would be a helpful partnership with the borough to help out the residents on the school there. So, again, I know it would have to be discussed, but certainly be appreciated. And I do, I understand that it would take all of the residents kind of agreeing to it, which, I can talk, I've already talked to some and said I'm going to ask, Borough Council and the borough if they would be interested in doing this. So there's interest among the neighbors to do this because they know, it would be a good opportunity if they are paving that street. Contractors would already be there, mobilization recreation costs would be lower, stuff like that, so. The other comment I want to make on the bill list, which I believe I've made before, it's just the ask that, it's, when you look at the bill list, there are a bunch of entries on there, just say TD Bank card. It'd be helpful to know the merchants that money is actually being spent at. See that would be too much extra work, because you're already logging each line as its own, dollar amount. You just have to put where we're spending the money. I don't know what the TD Bank card is, it's like a debit card or what, but.
It's a credit card.
Okay, yeah, so, it'd be helpful, because there's all kinds of stuff on there for a wide range of expenses, and, just to see where the borough money is being spent would be helpful, appreciated, at least me. But, yeah, that's all.
Jason, could I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
on this? Mr. Wilcox, the alleys generally are not publicly dedicated streets. They belong to the neighbors,
Yep.
you and all your neighbors. So are you asking for the borough to just pave it like a street, or what are you asking?
So I'm asking to do for the borough, for the borough to consider doing something as they did with the sidewalks and sewer, where they would include, like, I think you can include like an optional line in the bid for the contractor to bid on,
An alternate.
and an alternate, and it would be kind of contingent upon all the residents agreeing to saying, hey, we will pay the borough for this.
Okay,
So I'm not asking for the borough to actually pay for it. I mean, I guess that would be on us and, me and the neighbors to try to corral everybody to agree to it. But, again, the thought is that we would have a much lower cost, and, it's hard to say no to something like that when.
or if each one of you hired a contractor to do your little piece.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's a 20-foot wide, and honestly, in some spots, it's not, because the grass is just ingrown, but, again, it's not in terrible shape. I mean, I'm sure it need a little bit of spot, base repair, but, again, that's the request, is that, entertain or discuss possibly doing that. Because, I mean, I know there's not many alleys in the borough, but some of them are far worse than others, and, something like this, there's already kind of a, precedent for doing it.
Right.
and,
The borough has in the past done that with sewer laterals.
Right, so.
You
I
know,
think
they're
we did
doing
it-
sewer work in the street and the neighbors want their laterals done too. The borough's gotten the contractor and then that gives it a loan.
Right, and I know, like I said, I know they did it on West School with the curbs. I think you included an alternate. I don't even know. I don't think they bid on it. Anyway, that's the request, is that you just consider it and, let us know.
We can certainly have a more detailed conversation with Chad, that our engineers here, and talk about it and see if that's something. I can't guarantee that you said that your neighborhood is gonna be up for paving in 2023. or
Right,
based
yeah,
on the
no,
budget
I understand that.
2024, but your neighborhood is next on our list, so it's a good time to ask the question and talk to Chad
Yeah.
about including an alternate in there and how that would work.
Yep.
And I think it can be a discussion, certainly, we can entertain.
Yeah, whenever each school was up for the pavement. I know on the plan that you sent me most recently, it was
Yeah,
actually on there for this year, but
Yeah.
I know.
your neighborhood is next, so.
Okay,
yeah.
so, all right, thank you.
I will also add that I will follow up with the treasurer for the TD Bank cards and talk to her about the bill list tomorrow, and see if we can get a little bit more detail behind those entries.
Okay.
I don't see that being an issue.
I mean, it does list what it was for, right? It just doesn't say who the merchant was. Okay. Okay. Any other public input? All right, we'll close that session. Let's go to item number 4, announcements.
Next council meeting is October 5th workshop and October 19th regular meeting, 7:30 PM in council chambers. Borough is scheduled to meet on Wednesday, September 28th at 8 AM here in council chambers. Planning Commission is scheduled to meet on Monday, October 3rd at 7 PM here in council chambers. The Hatfield Museum Historical Society is scheduled to meet on Tuesday, September 27th at 7 PM at the Hatfield Volunteer Fire Company. And the Hatfield Borough Fall Fest is scheduled for Saturday, September 24th, starting at 3 PM on East Lincoln Avenue.
Any questions? If there are none, we'll go to item 5, public hearing for ordinance number 546 for codification of the ordinances for the Borough of Hatfield and the adoption of the code of ordinances. So I'll turn the meeting over to our solicitor.
Sure. Just want to tell everybody we have a court reporter here taking notes so that we're going to have a transcript from tonight's hearing. We don't always do that, but it's a good idea when you're doing a big codification like this. So if anybody wants to speak, you have to wait to be recognized and then use the microphone so that we make sure she can hear everything that's going on. And we can only have one person speaking at one time because it's pretty hard to take down multiples, okay? So those ground rules in effect, I'm going to mark a couple of exhibits, and in your binders, Borough Council does have these things, okay? We're going to mark as B1, the affidavit of publication from the media news group indicating that we did advertise the codification ordinance. B2 is a copy of the codification ordinance because it is so little on the affidavit of publication that you could not read it, okay? B3 is the actual ad from the newspaper that was in there. And B4 is ordinance 546, which is on the agenda tonight as an action item, if you look at your action items. Okay, so I'm going to give a brief explanation of what codification is, and then we'll see if there are any questions. We've been working on this for 2 years now. Basically, what it means is codification takes all the ordinances that you pass since the last time you did a codification and make sure that they're in the book, in our case also online, correctly. So that if it deals with zoning, it's in the correct chapter. And if it deals with subdivision, it's in the correct chapter. If it deals with stormwater, it's in the correct chapter. Why does this matter? Because believe it or not, the borough ordinance book is this thick as this entire stack of documents that I have here. And yes, Chad brought his with him. Chad Cameron, our engineer, brought his borough ordinance book with him. And if I were to ask him, I'm sure he would answer under oath. Chad Cameron, did you review these documents during the process?
Every word.
And I can say the same under oath that I reviewed every word. And Jamie Snyder also reviewed every word. The purpose was to make sure that there were no changes. In other words, what you or your predecessors have passed into law is still going to be in the book. It's just going to all be in order and in the correct sections. The changes that were made are small, like I think there were pronouns changed here and there. And if you look at the, if you look in your packet, you can see that there were small revisions to make sure things worked. In other words, you added some areas to no parking at certain times since the last time we did this. So we added that to the parking ordinance, okay? Also, from time to time, we've changed the core commercial district. We've allowed outdoor dining, and we've done other things that were not in the book. They're still ordinances, they still apply, but the codification process is going to put them logically in the book so that if you open the book to the zoning chapter, those core commercial ordinances will read exactly as they are intended to read instead of as ordinance 246 followed by ordinance 247, which might not have anything to do with core commercial. So the whole idea behind codification is not to change what Borough Council has passed, but to make sure it's in a logical order in the ordinance book. And also, because you use Gen Code, who did the editing of this document for us, Gen Code, and they host the borough ordinance on their website. They'll be hosting the new and revised codified ordinance after you pass the ordinance 546 tonight. So the goal of codification is not to change the law, but simply to put the law in logical order and to make sure that everything's in one place. As I have mentioned to some of you, not all townships and boroughs do this. And sometimes ordinances get lost. People are looking at an ordinance, this happened in Charlestown Township in Chester County. They're looking at an ordinance to see where billboards are allowed. They missed an update. So they sued the township on the grounds that the township had unconstitutionally excluded a legitimate use, billboards. And it wasn't until they got to court that somebody said, wait a minute, you didn't see ordinance 942. Oh, okay, so that's one reason why you do these things, so that the playing field's level for everybody. Developers and applicants, engineers, everybody sees the same ordinance and knows what the rules are. And so that's why we're doing this. Does this mean we can't do new ordinances? No, of course we can. And I don't know about Chad, but what I do is I clip them into my book until we codify again. And I say that because I know that we have a committee that wants 3 new ordinances looked at. One has to do with dogs on leashes and I forget the others, but we are working on that. And you can still chickens, open burning, right, in clothing bins. We're working on it, okay? So if you decide to change the ordinance, you can do that. This doesn't prevent that. But it's probably a good idea every 5 years or so, you know, to have the ordinances codified. So that's the process. We're holding a hearing tonight to see if anyone has questions or concerns. And it is on as an action item later this evening. Chad, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, you did a great job.
Okay. Any questions from Borough Council or the public? And then ask Mr. Chairman. Any questions?
I don't, anyone from the public have any questions? I think Jamie has a question, yes.
I just wanted to add that at the public meeting last month, or earlier this month, I'm sorry, that it was asked what the budget was for this. So I did bring those items with me tonight, just so that it is on record, that it's budgeted in the general fund, and we budgeted in 2021, $13,000, and in 2022, we budgeted $13,000 as well, as this was a 2-year project. In 2021, we spent $9,000, and year-to-date in 2022, we spent $7,000. So we were under the budget, but I just wanted it on record that this project was budgeted and funded through the 2021 and 2022 budget.
We should ask, is there any member of the public that wants to comment or ask a question about the codification ordinance? There are people in the public, but none of them has indicated. Oh, wait, Owen? Sure, could you go to the microphone and state your name again, okay?
It's not working.
All right, speak loudly,
All right.
Owen. Go ahead.
Owen Wilcox, 32 School Street,
Oh, and just for the court reporter, is Wilcox 1L or 2?
1, WILCOS,
What was your address?
32 East School. I'm just scanning through this, and if I understand it, based on the second page, any ordinance that was passed after March 16th is not included in this.
Correct.
So I don't know when like the sewer lateral inspection ordinance was passed.
Pretty sure before March 16th.
So that would then fall in like the sewer section?
Yes.
The new ordinances?
I'm sorry, I should have waited till you finished.
Oh, sorry.
Correct. The sewer lateral ordinance was passed before the codification process, not before it started, but before it was completed. And yes, it'll appear in the sewer section.
Okay, and then, so any subsequent ordinances that are passed afterwards would not fall in that section. The book or like online, it'd just be a separate thing.
Right, online, Gen Code has a section that says recently passed. And it'll have a link that you go to, and it'll show you the ordinances. And then, 5 or 6 years from now, when the borough codifies again, they'll put it in.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the public who has comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Unless anyone has a statement or they would like to make, I think we can close the hearing now.
All right.
Okay, Jason.
Having none, we'll go ahead and close it. Thank you, Madam Solicitor.
All right, can we release the court reporter? We don't need her for anything else tonight.
Yes.
Right?
Unless she just wants to hang out with us, because we're a fun group.
Thank you.
All right, while they do that, we'll go ahead on to item 6, minutes court presentation by Prestige Builders for final subdivision and land development approval for Maple Avenue in the borough. I would say step up to the microphone, but apparently it's not working.
I can step
That
up
one is,
there.
okay, that's,
You go there. You want me to set up the board?
that'll be helpful.
Actually, there's one at the end of the table. You can use. Just make sure it's on.
This is one that's what. So I knew we were here a few months ago, for preliminary plan. Now we are back for the final plan tonight, and there hasn't been many changes except for the items that we discussed last time and the changes that were made to address, the borough comments from council and from the engineer and from the solicitor. For example, the roadway was widened to the 24 feet. There's a plan there. So again, I'll just go back to, just in general.
It might be a good idea for the minutes if you could introduce yourself
Yes.
and the applicant too.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Chris Rice with Level Engineering Group. And Jim D'Angelo from Prestige Property Partners is here tonight as the applicant. So this project was proposing 18 townhomes in 3 separate buildings of 6 units in each. It was off of Maple Avenue, and it's about 600 feet to the cul-de-sac there. And we propose 2 parking spaces for each unit, plus additional parking spaces, which was one of the things that we discussed last time, was adding as many parking spaces as we could. And there was some waiver requests related to that as well. So that is what we did. We added parking spaces here and added a couple additional ones in the other spots as well. The other important thing that we did was the 24-foot entrance here, making sure you have a 24-foot parkway, in addition to the parking spaces that are available for the residents here in the commercial property. So we have that, again, the sidewalks interconnecting through the development here. There's an alley here that's supposed to be paved. Getting approvals from the voters, provided we get those approvals, the alley will be paved. That's a summary of stormwater management. We have a larger basin, also an underground system and a rain garden. Nothing really, there were some changes made because we had additional impervious. There were some slight changes made to those facilities. But again, nothing major, just cleaning things up. And another thing that was important that we did was for the fire trucks was making sure that they were able to navigate. We had that 26-foot wide usable area for the fire trucks to use and turn around and to get the rigging out and everything of that nature. So those were the big topics that we met on this revised plan. But in the general scope of it is still consistent with what we have seen before.
And what were the final number of parking spaces? Excluding the ones in front of for the condos?
I think we ended up with 22. Yeah, 22 additional spaces. So that's a little bit more than one per condo. That's there.
And I forget, how many will the condo houses, the 2 in front, the 2 in front?
It's wide enough to have 2 cars side by side.
Okay.
for each one. There's no parking allowed on the street.
Right.
They did ask for a number of waivers. Do you want to make sure that Borough Council understands why you're asking for waivers?
Yeah, and we didn't have any additional waivers from last time we were here. But I can go through those waivers again.
Borough Council wants to look at your draft resolution that's in your packets. And the reason I raised this is because there have been a couple court cases recently where you have to give a reason for each waiver. Now, the resolution does have them, but I want to make sure that Borough Council understood them.
Yeah, so I have them listed right here. So
There are an awful lot. I don't think you have to go through every one, but you just hit the big ones and explain why you're asking for waivers from our ordinance.
Sure. Just the first one here was a 33-foot right of way from Venice Court, and this is at the location right here at the entrance, where there's only a 33-foot wide right of way now between the 2 existing properties. Once we get past that,
we meet all the borough requirements. Also, one was allow the cul-de-sac pole to be partially located within the easement with a 48-foot radius rather than within a right-of-way with a 60-foot radius. And again, that is due to the shape of the site being triangular in that part of the site, really constricting the area there, and it was sized for fire trucks to turn around. That part, the paved part, meets the borough ordinance. It's just the right of way outside that. Next one was the cul-de-sac length is 658 feet long. The maximum allowable length is 500 feet in the ordinance, and again, related to the size and shape of the property. We did ask for a waiver from providing emergency access way due, again, to the size and shape of the property, and there's no other roads that connect to it. I think we did look into that. It was the neighbors were very cooperative with that, but we did widen the road, and we also proposed a gate here at the end for pedestrians, at least can access out of there.
So the latest version has the gate
We
in
did
it.
that in
Okay.
So we did that. The next one was just from providing curb along the alleyway. And this is an existing alleyway without curb. We did ask for a waiver for the sidewalks to be less than 6 inches from the right of way and have those sidewalks be right along the curb line. A waiver to allow some of the parking spaces are closer than the 20-foot required by the borough ordinance. And again, that was just to maximize the number of parking spaces we could get on the site. Waiver to allow units to be on a private street rather than a public street, since this would be a private street, not dedicated to the borough. We had waivers related to landscaping for the spacing of the street trees to better fit within the site, and also allowing some alternate species of plants.
Just so Borough Council knows, these are waivers from the subdivision ordinance, which are allowed to waive. If you need a waiver from the zoning ordinance, you have to go to the zoning board, and I believe you already did.
Right, we went to the zoning board originally before we went through all this and we did get the variances.
Because it is an unusually small site, I think.
And it's just the shape because it's basically it's triangular for the most part. So
Chris, am I right that it's a private street because you offered it for dedication, but the borough declined to accept it?
that's my understanding. It is offered for dedication, is our understanding of the borough.
Right, and that's so that the borough doesn't have to plow it or pave it or any of those things. The homeowners association is gonna have that job, as well as the job of taking care of the stormwater and the open space, right?
Right, yep, there will be a homeowners association to manage those aspects.
So one of the conditions is that we have to see your homeowners docs to make sure that you told the homeowners that they're gonna have to take care of the road and the open space and stormwater.
Unless the borough wants to reconsider. Sorry.
Yeah, and then our last waivers related to the radii here at Maple Avenue and the street. The radii is smaller because that is just what is available since there are existing houses in existing right of way. And we had a waiver to allow 3-to-1 slopes in the basins rather than 4-to-1 slopes. This allows more volume for storage of stormwater. And lastly, we had a waiver from measuring the building setback lines from the easements rather than the right of way. And the primary reason for that was to fit in additional parking spaces.
Couple additional questions. We talked about the curb being raised from the sidewalk. That's in there as well, too.
The curb,
On the sidewalk as an exit, it's not necessarily through the property.
at this area here,
Yes.
we're going to have handicap ramps there. So there'll be depressed curb for the ADA ramps for the crosswalk.
Okay.
But along that stretch, it will be vertical.
It'll be, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
right, this area here.
Okay. Yeah, because it's only in that stretch. It's not through the rest of the property. It's only in that exterior. Okay. Right.
Yeah, we have regular curb along here and here, except for the driveway to the garages here. But then once you get into the site, we have the press for all the aprons and also.
And then we also talked about a traffic study once, within, I think it's in 18 months or 24 months?
18 months.
18 months, okay,
We have it business.
okay. My only question would be, is do we expect full occupancy within 18 months? Because if we did a traffic study and we did it in full occupancy, the numbers wouldn't necessarily be accurate.
Assume that 18-month, just from the developer standpoint, I would assume that 18-month probably starts once the last unit is delivered.
I don't know, it's a good question.
After dedication, when did we after, well, there's.
We're not dedicated.
I can correct myself, sorry, I tried again. I would assume that 18-month period, maybe we have to, qualify that, but we probably be, in my mind, it would be up to the period of the last, because again, if it started day one, there'd be really no change because of the traffic. So it would have to start after the 18th unit of time.
Okay,
And I say, I could be a lot of things.
I understand. So, okay.
So are you agreeing that you will do a traffic study 18 months after the last unit's occupied?
If it's requested by the borough.
I think the borough's requesting it. I don't think we have it in the resolution.
Whatever the borough.
But we can, if you're agreeable to it, we can put it in the land development agreement.
I'm,
Okay,
that's fine.
great.
And then the last question I have is for.
And hold on for 1 second. That was traffic study to see whether we needed something. at the
Sign,
intersection.
yes, yeah.
Right.
Because there was concern with that much traffic with the Lansdale warehouse. Are we prone to accidents or anything like that? So, but
Yeah, I think part of it was to see, once the townhomes are in, how it was working. All right, so I think it was more than a traffic study, it was even just based on traditional too.
If Jamie thinks it's in preliminary, I think it is too. So,
I remember the language was within the period of the maintenance bond.
it's,
So the
okay,
maintenance bond would begin once escrow is released. So if you want to revise that, you would have to change it. That's the way it's discussed previously.
so, within the maintenance period, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, preliminary resolution says, and in fact, it is a note on the record plan. They will install handicap ramps and a crosswalk and a three-way stop at that intersection if Borough Council requests it within the 18-month maintenance bond period.
Okay, then we're already okay if Borough Council approves the plans as written. If Chad or you could send the solicitor that note, okay, so I can put it in the agreement. If it's on the plan and you approve the plan tonight, it's in there.
I think it's page 7 on the resolution.
I don't recall any specific language related to a traffic study. That's my-
Right, it doesn't say anything about
Yeah, it doesn't say
it
anything
just
about
has the
traffic.
borough council's
Request.
Right.
Well, I think they're requesting. Okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I
Yeah,
think
that's actually-
because I know for us to add any additional signage or anything like that, we have to have a traffic study, right, before we can even do that. So I think that was the assumption, so.
Right, so I think it makes sense to do it during the maintenance period.
Yeah, makes the most sense. Of
Right,
course.
because that starts when, we're releasing your construction escrows and things like that. And most likely the place will be finished by then. Places will be finished. And then during that period, they could do the traffic study and see what we need at the intersection.
For the
Okay.
benefit of the Borough Council, the way that would work is they would construct the property. And once they're done, the very last part of it, that's escrow, we would review it. We would recommend the borough release the final escrow, which means they're off the hook as far as construction, financial security. In that letter, I would recommend the maintenance bond we start. Maintenance bond is 15% of the construction escrow. That point, the 18-month clock starts.
Right, so
we
we
don't know
still-
if it'll be fully occupied at that time or not. But
But
frankly,
we
they
still have money
will have the maintenance bond.
for 18 months for the maintenance fund, right? The reason that borough holds money, as we all know, is if they don't do it, we do it. We do what we have to do, okay? So, all right.
So are we okay with that, or do we need to add some additional statement about during the maintenance bond, assuming that there's full occupancy or something like that? or are we comfortable just with maintenance?
Well, they're gonna be trying to sell these as quickly as they can, so they have every incentive to have full occupancy when they go to the maintenance bond. The exact language, let me just read it, okay? A note should be added to the record plan stating that a three-way stop sign with associated crosswalk and ADA compliant ramps will be installed at the new intersection of Bennett's Court and Maple Avenue if requested by Borough Council prior to the end of the 18-month maintenance period for the development. So the only thing new we're adding is a traffic study to say whether or not we need those things. And the developers agreeing to that.
Well, can we actually talk about that? Like, again, just from a developer standpoint, and I think about the consultant fees because that's all I deal with every day. If Borough comes to me and says, you know what, we think we need, well, do I have to go through the traffic study and spend the money? Can't I just put the three-way intersection in? Like, I know this might sound crazy, but if you're coming to me with the, concern, why do we have to go through the traffic study? Let's just put the three-way stop sign. Why do I have to go spend $10,000 for whatever the amount is? Why don't I just put it in? Like, why spend the money for the consult? This is what I'm asking. If you're coming.
Right.
Well, I think
So
our system-
let me ask Chad the question, because this is important. Bennett's Court will be a privately owned street. Maple Avenue, I believe, is a borough street. So we can actually install stop signs without a traffic study if they want.
Yeah, my understanding, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but your traffic engineer, Borough's traffic engineer has interviewed this. They reviewed it based on existing conditions, of course.
During COVID.
Yeah, and their recommendation is that it does not meet the warrants to install a traffic sign. So what that means, and with Representative of Police here, we have Kate here, my understanding is if it doesn't meet warrants, it may not be enforceable. Meaning if somebody blows through that stop sign, you may not be able to ticket that person because it doesn't meet the warrants. Kate, please correct me if I'm incorrect.
No, I disagree on a local road. I think you're right on a PennDOT road. Okay, but I mean, the officer may not want to be put on the spot here. Okay.
That's a great highway safety question, but I'm not the guy to answer that one. So.
Right, but I mean, the truth is if it's a local road, we have jurisdiction over it.
I'll repeat that I'm not a traffic engineer.
All right.
That's my understanding.
So to his point, if you request a three-way stop and the handicap ramps and all that, between when he asked for the release of the escrow and 18 months later, when the maintenance period ends, he'll do it.
Correct.
With or without a traffic study, you don't need it.
Correct.
Right, well, to respond to the question, I know Lieutenant Jane pulled me aside during one of our last meetings and said she didn't recommend skipping the traffic study for liability reasons. If something were to happen, if we do that and something were to happen, there's concern, she brought the concern that the borough might be liable because we did something without verifying through a study. So that's why, again, I'm not sure that's.
I'm a solicitor. I think you're protected by sovereign immunity. You're only
Okay.
liable for a condition of real estate if you are aware that it is dangerous and you do it anyway. I can't imagine putting up three-way stop signs.
I mean,
It
if it's-
creates a dangerous situation.
Okay,
You know, if you're aware of it, like suppose you have a park and you have a limestone cave-in, like happens periodically in Plymouth Meeting, right? And you know it's dangerous because somebody walking their dog's not gonna see it, they're gonna fall in, and you just leave it there, then the Tort Claims Act doesn't protect you, okay? But if that sinkhole opens up and somebody falls in the very next day before you even knew it was there, then the Municipal Tort Claims Act does protect you because you weren't aware that there was a dangerous condition.
okay.
So I think, if this weren't Maple Avenue, maybe, if it was a PennDOT road, I'd definitely go for traffic study. Because they're gonna be looking for that. But, I mean, the issue here is whether or not there's enough traffic coming out of the new development. Can they get out safely without a stop sign? And you know what? We're gonna know that. We're gonna know that from driving in and out there. Now, where people are gonna come in and complain to you, can we have a stop sign? And then, because they are local roads, you can do that.
Okay.
So,
So to answer the question? do we do
Yes.
Traffic studies, sounds like no.
Either
So,
way,
yeah.
it's fine, either way, it's fine. I mean, I do understand, the borough wants to be protected, and I do understand that. So whatever happens during the manuscript, again, I think McMahon, am I correct? Was it McMahon that did the review? So again, we're fine either way. We don't have to do a traffic study just to protect, and again, this business is always about protecting everyone anymore. So whatever the borough requests will be.
And the resolution does have a requirement if you ask for it.
Right.
So, I mean, the resolution's fine as it is.
I dug up what McMahon had provided, so it wasn't like a full blown, like a traffic study, basically, or people in driveway study. But they did they called an already stop control evaluation, and they listed warrants and their evaluations. I'm just mentioning something like that, it's just not the level of detail that the traffic study would normally be. It's something like this, just to see if it needs some warrants, and even in their evaluation here, they comment that there's no existing traffic patterns, because that makes sense.
And McMahon's excellent, but they're also used to dealing with roads like 309.
Right.
You know,
Right.
this Maple Avenue's nowhere near that heavily traveled.
I believe the planning commission's concern is the speed along. And like he said, the potential of somebody pulling out of Venice Court, somebody flying down Maple and getting T-bone.
Right. And not to mention, and there's cars sitting on both sides of the road anyway, so it's really, makes it even worse. Right. That potential.
Not to mention that the existing houses and features that they have no control over are within the site triangle area. So what you typically have clear for visual, looking, they have no rights to remove somebody's house or shrubs or trees or what have you. So it could be a slight distance concern as well, potentially.
And I'm sorry, so last question I have is for our manager. I know we're going to send a letter to the fire palace, the fire company, detailing out their ability to put, to use the sides of the road. Were they okay with that? Was there any feedback?
I shared the plan with Dean Miniger at the firehouse, and he said he was going to share it with the chief, and if they had any concerns, they would let me know, and I have not heard any concerns.
If I can step in again, if you don't mind. They did issue a letter. I believe they mentioned the update to a depressed curve as Borough Council required. And I think their question or their comment was related to one label on the plan. So I reviewed it. They did exactly what you asked. They modified the design to depress the curve all the way up and around the cul-de-sac bowl. I believe it's just one label that.
We will definitely provide that. Does anyone else have a question? All right, we'll close this section. Thank you for the information.
Another song for action later this evening, so stick around. Unless you don't care, of course, in which case you can always.
I always care.
Let's say, see if they're gonna offer or accept dedication or.
Yeah. I'd rather dedicate some trees or something to the traffic. Let's do something good.
Do you, shall we just move up that action item now? So that okay. So we'll go to item number 9, action item D. Motion to consider resolution 2022-29, granting final land development approval for Prestige Property Partners LLC, Bennett's Court with conditions. Can I get a motion?
So
Second.
All right, a motion from Councilman Cresser, a second from Councilman Stevens. Are there any final questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Motion passes. All right, so we'll go back up to item 7, new business and discussion items.
Resolution 2022-30, the closure of certain borough roads was included in your packets. This is a resolution that we pass when we have to close certain borough roads for events. As stated earlier in announcements, the Fall Festival is this Saturday, September 24th on East Lincoln Avenue. This car show allows us to close East Lincoln Avenue from approximately 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the car show. It's on for consideration as an action item this evening.
Item B, monthly cash report.
Monthly cash report was not in the workshop packet, so it's included in the regular meeting packet. This is the same report that you receive every month. It just states what the balances are on our major accounts for the borough, including our investments.
Item C, monthly year-to-date report.
Monthly year-to-date report also is not included in the workshop meeting packet, so it's included in this packet, and it just highlights where we are revenues versus expenses through August of this year.
Item D, the monthly EMS report.
Monthly EMS report was left out of the workshop packet, so it's included in this packet. Just wanted to highlight that there were 24 zone calls in Hatfield Borough this month, or last month, I'm sorry, in August.
All right, item E, the pool advisory report.
Pool advisory report was not in the past two workshop packets, so I wanted to include it this month. Just a couple highlights. They said they had a positive season. There's some suggestions that they're looking into. I think people missed the twilight hours, if you're familiar with what they have prior to COVID. They're looking to do some fun nights at the pool, some events moving forward as we're working our way out of the pandemic and kind of getting back to what the pool was functioning before the pandemic. And they will be talking about the budget for 2023 at their October meeting. So I will report back on that.
My other question on that was, did they have the dog palooza event where they love everyone bringing dogs? Did they? Okay. Okay. All right. Any questions on new business or discussion items? All right, we'll go to item A, old business. Item A, resolution 2022-27, the recognizing public works week.
This resolution recognizing Public Power Week is an annual resolution that Hatfield Borough Council and the mayor enacts just to bring awareness that Hatfield Borough is a public power community and an electric provider, and just to honor and recognize the week of public power. This is on for consideration as an action item this evening.
And for note for borough residents who are watching, we're going to give more information on the benefits of public power and future communication. All right, item B, resolution 2022-28, recognizing fire prevention week.
This is an annual resolution that Borough Council and the mayor to recognize Fire Prevention Week. This week it's this year, I'm sorry, it's October 9th through October 15th. So we will pass this resolution. It's on for consideration as an action item this evening. And if the fire company has an open house, we normally present this in correlation with that. So we'll work out those details with the firehouse. I have not heard if they were going to have a fire prevention open house this year, but I will follow up and find out.
But if people climb up the ladder, they would have so a lot more people attend. Apparently Steve is blank. All right, any questions on all business? All right, we'll get to our action items. So we'll start with item A, motion to consider ordinance number 546, providing for codification of the ordinances for the Borough of Hatfield and the adoption of the Code of Ordinances. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I got a motion from Councilor Gerard, a second from Councilor Fagan. Any questions? Any final questions from the public? All right, all in favor? Opposed? There are none. Motion passes. Item B, motion to consider resolution 2022-27, recognizing Public Power Week.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion from Councilwoman Cresser, a second from Councilman Stevens. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none, so motion passes. Item C, motion to consider resolution 2022-28, recognizing Fire Prevention Week.
So moved.
Second?
I got a motion from Councilor Stevens, a second from Councilwoman Cresser. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none, motion passes. We already did item D, we'll go to item E. Motion to consider resolution 2022-30, closure of certain borough roads for the annual Fall Fest event.
So moved.
Second. All right, I got a motion from Councilor Gerard, second from Councilor Fagan. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none, motion passes. All right, can I get a motion to approve payment of the bills?
So moved.
I got a motion from Councilor Stevens, a second from Councilor Fagan. Any questions on the bills? And what was presented in the packet is up to date, correct? Or no additional changes? Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none, so motion passes. Since we had our executive session before, there won't be one afterwards.
No, there will be.
Oh, there will be?
We'll be discussing real estate.
Oh, sorry, I will retract my previous statement. So after this, we'll have executive session. So can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting is closed. Thank you everyone for attending.